on page Chaf, the last paragraph is Vav. After thinking about what you said, Yossi, and I think you're right, isn't it? Yeah, so I'll explain why. So we're looking at the Rebbe's beer in the Fidik Rebbe adding the example of Paray as the Mata and Tachlis of someone who's Kafir Toiva. Hashem's Baruch descends there. And he's explaining it here, but Bashtas Begilu, that the Oren Shef is Mizgala in such a low place to the point that the recipient can be Kafir Toiva and deny that it came from the Oren Shef. And he gives the example of Paray, who knows that Hashem, that knows that the bracha, that the Nilus greets him, comes from Yosef, comes from Yaakov. But nonetheless says, I made the thing is on me. So the Rebbe quoted the Mittler Rebbe and the Tzemach Tzedek, which add layers of understanding. So first of all, I quoted the Mittler Rebbe, which told us that the Nilus B'chlau is the first of the rivers that emerge from Gan Eden, and therefore Be'etzim it's one with the Nahar that was in Eden, which provided the Tainug in Eden. So this already adds beer that the Matad and Tachlis, that the Nilus itself is a perfect model for Matad and Tachlis, because it itself is from the Oren Seif, and it comes below into the lowest place of Mitzrayim. That's from the Mittler Rebbe. And from the Tzemach Tzedek is most of two more details. The bracha, first of all, is so long as Yaakov is around, the Mitzrayim don't subjugate the Yidden. And if they don't subjugate the Yidden, so now they become part of the purpose of the Eibishter. They can fulfill the kavanah for why they're existing. Because, right, the Gemara, which is called that the world is created to provide, litzvos means like safsa connection, to provide society connection for this person who's serving the Eibishter, that ultimate person being the Chacham, the Rebbe, and everybody else in the world is just providing context in which this person could serve the Eibishter properly. And when they provide that context, they themselves become part of the purpose of creation. So the Mitzrayim, by not subjugating the Yidden, allowing the Yidden to be Malam and Tzitzis from Mitzrayim, they themselves become part of the purpose of creation. So now they fulfill their role as well. And then, besides for that, there's the bracha b'gashmis, that Mitzrayim is successful. And when Yaakov passes, they lose both of those. They start to subjugate the Yidden, and if they lose their role in creation, plus they lose the bracha, they end up with makers. And therefore, when Yaakov died, there was a great mourning. But all of this is to say that the bracha of Yaakov doesn't just provide begashmius, but also provides beruchnius. So the lamata den tachlis is not only that the Paray is successful, but the mata den tachlis is that even a place like Paray can have a fulfillment in his role in creation. Even Paray can feel a sense of satisfaction that he's doing what Hashem wants. And it comes in such a low state that he can even deny that. He's kafir toiva to deny the very thing that's providing him purpose and value in creation and giving him physical success. He denies that source. And this is Lamata and Tachlis. So I think this idea you were mentioning yesterday, that the Nilus comes to him and the Gay also to the Salbir. Because the word that Rabbi said of Mispashas Begilun is not just that the Oren Seif gives, but that the Oren Seif is Mizgala, meaning to say the recipient is aware that it comes from the Oren Seif. So the very fact that the Nilus comes up towards him means every time he goes there and he sees the success of Mitzrayim, he sees the miracle of the Eibishter. So it's mamish lamata den tachlis, that even in the bracha as it's provided to him, it's in an oifum where the Oren Seif is begoloi. The Nilus is coming up to him. It's mamish clear to him that this is a bracha. Add to the fact that it's clear to him that Yaakov's presence in Mitzrayim is providing him with the ruchnistic ability to be part of Hashem's kavanah. He's completely aware of that. That's the gilui of Oren Seif, and you still kafir toiva. And that's the ultimate. That's the matzah tachlis is about to explain now. So the last paragraph of Oish Vav is on page Chaf in the booklets. So this is understood. Based on this, that which the Tzemach Tzedek says with regard to Yaakov's presence bringing the bracha, both begashmius, and also being the bracha beruchni, that the mitzvim are part of litzvos lazar, are part of the purpose of Hashem's creation. They're part of the purpose of helping Yidden be Ma'alim and Tzitzis, and therefore they themselves are part of that. Unless they're connected to the Ein Sof, the mathematical Tachlis. So this is also understood now, based on that's understood about before to be connected to that which the Friedrich says in the Maamer, being in Ein Sof, mathematical Tachlis. And the fact that the Ein Sof is mispashet begilui, even in the lowest place. Shekoy al yodid lamata b'yaser. The meaning of the Zohar, which says that the Ein Sof is mispashet all the way to the end, is talking about, or the Goli all the way to the end, is talking about the ultimate descent, to the point as it was by Paresh. I'm in denial of myself. Even though the truth is that the bracha that Pare experiences comes from Yaakov, the bracha that the Nilo should come to him. Number one, there's two parts here. Number one, first of all, it's ultimate bracha of good begashmias. And that ultimate bracha of good begashmias, as the Mitzvah explained to us, comes from Toiva Elyon of Kedusha. It comes from the first Nahar, which came from the Nahar from Eden. So it's the first emergence into Biyah that's still connected very much to the Oyer Sof of Atzilus. That was the Mitzvah of Chiddush. That was the Chiddush that was brought into us by the Mitzvah Rebbe. And then and in such a manner that the Oyer Sof comes down to such a low place of Mitzrayim, and it's begoli in Mitzrayim to the point, not just that it does successfully well, but instead of Mitzrayim being this lowly state, it fulfills the role of creation to provide you the opportunity to environment tzitzis. And therefore, it's the Gilui of Oyer Sof in such a low state is such that it's the Goli in that low state that it itself can connect to Kedusha. To the point that it connects to the ultimate Kedusha, to provide to the Chacham Echad, to the man upon which the purpose of creation stands, the Yaakov himself. And this itself, this whole bracha itself, this itself caused, that itself, the very bracha of the Oyer Sof, the Matan Tachlis, itself caused him to become Kafei Tova, to deny it. This is the ultimate denial of good. The Gan, the Darga, and even this lowly state, after Paro screws up, the Oyer Sof is there begoli. So it's not just that the Oyer Sof is there begoli and then he screws up. Now that he screws up, he ruined it. No. But even after he screws up, the Oyer Sof is still a Matan Tachlis there. And this is the greater chiddush of this point, right? The chiddush of the first of the quote the Vidika ever gave before this, which was that everything that exists has a flow from a mazel that tells it grow, grow. That was to say that whatever exists in this world, it's because Oyer Sof is mislabish in it, and that's the matat and tachlis. And now he's saying even when you get that, and you screw up as a result of it, the very bracha that the Oyer Sof is providing for you, and you see the Oyer Sof in that bracha, and you deny that bracha, even in that denial was the Oyer Sof matat and tachlis. The Oyer Sof is there as well, even post my screw up, even post Pare's corruption of this Gilui of Oyer Sof. Now, based on this other chiddush, right? So the one chiddush in the Maamer, as we said a couple of days ago, is that we're talking about now that the Oyer Sof is the Goloi down in the Matat and Tachlis. That even as the Hashpah comes the Mata, the Oyer Sof is still the Goloi there. But the other chiddush that ever was that all of this is been a get of Avodas Adam. And the reason why the Vidika keeps on giving examples of Avodas Adam is not just to tell you how low Oyer Sof goes, but to tell you that the Iker is by the Yid. Right? This is what we learned from the Maggid. That the Yid is in Machshava. And therefore, whatever exists in the world really starts in Yid. Because the Yid is the Machshava, which results in the Dibur that creates everything else. And therefore, if there's the Mata and Tachlis in Olam, that there could be a Parai that can deny, and even as he denies, the Oyer Sof is still there, then it must start in Yidden. Then in Yidden also there's a place where Yid can come to such a low state to deny, and even in that Yid there's the Oyer Sof the Mata and Tachlis. And it starts there. And it's all been a get Avodas Adam, which itself is a chiddush. And this is important to understand as we go to the next verse. Because at the beginning of the Maamer, what did the Rebbe say when he recapped the Friedrich Maamer? He said, what's going to get to explain Matat and Tachlis? The whole reason why the Fidik explains Matat and Tachlis is only as Agdama to explain what's going to come in the later Oisius, which is the Ma'ala Adin Ketz, because the Ma'ala Adin Ketz, that's the Oitzer which is given to the soldiers. Which, if that's where you would stop, then why is the Matat and Tachlis the get of this Adam? It's not. It's not. It's only Agdama to tell you the Hafla of the Ma'ala Adin Ketz. Because there's a great Hafla of the Matat and Tachlis, that the Oitzer is Begolo even down here. And then if the Ma'ala and Ketz is even higher than that, then it tells you how great the Oitzer is. But the Rebbe is learning, no, even the Matat and Tachlis is the get of this Adam. Right? Which means in the Oitzer, or in addition to the Oitzer, which comes in the later Oisius of the Ma'ala and Ketz, there's also the Nesinas Koyach. I don't know if you want to call it the Oitzer or not, but there's certainly a Nesinas Koyach that comes in the fact of the Matat and Tachlis, and that's not just in the fact of the Matat and Tachlis, but the Matat and Tachlis starts in the fact that it provides the avodah of the Yid, the Koyach. Because it all starts with the Yid, and it all starts with the avodah of the Yid. Because everything's negeya to the ultimate kavanah of making this world into Dibur Tatonim, making from the sheker into a keresh. That's the greater context of the Maimer, to make the shtus l'kedusha, the shtus l'umaz and the shtus l'kedusha. So therefore, everything in the Maimer is negeya to that. Even the Matat and Tachlis, which seemingly is only Hagdama to get to the Ma'ala and Ketz, is also negeya to the avodah. And that's where it starts. And that's why the Fidik gives examples of Yidden who have the Hashpah of Eretz Sof, Begashmis and Beruchnius, as we just explained, Parah is also Begashmis and Beruchnius. Right? That was the added here. That the Hashpah of Parah is also Begashmis and Beruchnius. So therefore, the Fidik also give examples of a Yid who has Hashpah of Eretz Sof, Lamatat and Tachlis, Begashmis and Beruchnius, and now that's going to get his avodah even after he screws up, to deny that this Hashpah he's getting is from Eretz Sof. So it's not just a tangent, Fidik is adding an example of how low the Eretz Sof goes. No, this is negate to the etzim of the whole Maimer. It's all for the avodah of the Yid. It all starts in the Yid, and if the Matat and Tachlis must exist for the Yid, even when he is kafir tova with the Eretz Sof must be at him. And this is where the Rebbe is going in this ois sign. The Alpoyam a little Siddalit based on that which the Rebbe said in Siddalit. That the whole point of the Maimer in general is been a Gelav of Adam is all about the Yid avodah, to turn the shtus l'kedusha into shtus l'umaz, to turn the sheker into keresh, to be make karbanis, to take the behemoth to be oilet l'mayla, the inner behemoth. So how do you move on? Therefore, it's understood. Shagam do with this parei shayach for this Adam. Therefore, everything about the Maimer, including this detail about parei, is negative for this Adam, because that's where it starts. Even though l'chura it's just a hagdama to l'mayla and ketz. No. Everything is the get of this Adam. It's the whole point of the Maimer, and that's where everything starts. And therefore, that's where the Maimer continues. Just like it is by Parei, where it gets Hashpah, and he knows the Hashpah comes from Eretz Sof, because he knows the bracha came from Parei. But then there's less than eyes, so too. The same thing is true of every Yid, whether he's in business or he's learning all day. And the Fidik explains. When it comes to people who are in business, is the fact that he thinks the person says, and the pasuk says, my own effort, my own capacity, that's what achieved all this success. So, since the whole point of the Matat and Tachlis, where Eretz is begoli, and you know it's Eretz Sof, that's the para here. You know it's from Yaakov. The Eretz is begoli. It's not just this bashtas. It's not just this havos. It's Eretz begoli. So you can look at this experience and know it's Eretz Sof, and still deny. So therefore, we're not talking about a Yid who doesn't believe the Eibushter provided for him. That would be contrary to the whole point here. The point is, as the Fidik continues, even though he knows that the Eibushter is the one that provides the capacity to achieve success, and it's the Eibushter's bracha that provides success, provides wealth. And because Eretz Sof is begoloi, he says, thank God about everything. Why shouldn't he? Nonetheless, he still thinks that it's his cunning, his intelligence, his strength that makes this success. His intelligence, his cleverness, his shrewdness stood by him for success. And therefore, when he's doing well, and everything, it's the pasuk in Tehillim, which the translation in Kahas, like the Kahas English translation is, he takes strength from his treachery. So Yoiz means he takes strength, where he feels like empowered, And then Bahavosai, as it's touched in the English Costellum, is his treachery. But how does the Fidike touch it? Shum is guy, he's proud, he's arrogant, by his existence. So Bahavosai is not a description of where he takes his strength from. He takes his strength from his treachery, as it is in the translation. But the way the Fidike touches it is he's arrogant, Bahavosai in his very being. So it's the ultimate corruption of Lamata Din Tachlis. It's the ultimate Lamata Din Tachlis. With the audience of his Begoloi, he says Baruch Hashem, he knows that's where the success comes from, and still says, I'm the best guy in the round. Now, but here comes a Gewaltig word. There are quotes in the Marash. I mentioned this a few times, that in the Maimer, if you don't look up the source, you don't know where the Rebbe is quoting from the original Maimer and where he's adding. So I looked up the Marash's Maimer, the famous Maimer, Hemshech Maim Rabin, famous Hemshech of the Marash. And so I'll tell you where the quote ends, and you'll see a Gewaltig thing that the Rebbe adds, which is special for Klippas America. As you're going to see. So there was like this opinion, there's an opinion of this idea that a person knows his success comes from the Eibishter. And nonetheless, he's arrogant. I'm the one. I'm the success. As there Marash explains in more detail and greater length in the beginning of the famous Hemshech of Maim Rabin. Because the Pasuk says, now we're quoting directly from the Marash. Quote starts here. Hashem, your Eibishter, blesses you in all that you do. So Taichi der Marash. So the simple pshat in the Pasuk is, you have to do yours, you have to do, and then the Eibishter will bench you on what you're doing. If you do nothing, there's no bracha. And if you do tons without the bracha of Hashem, you also get nothing. So you do what you have to. There's two components. There's a partnership. You do what you have to do, and then the bracha v'ayilakacha, Hashem will bench you. It says that Barash, Pirush, Kshetiska, Hashem Ulakacha, Uberacha Vayalakacha is not just describing what Hashem is going to do, but it's also a description of what you have to do. You have to remember that the bracha is Havaya Lekacha. Or you have to remember that Havaya is Lekacha. That who is your Lord? Who is the one that runs your life? It's Havaya, it's the Eibishter. So it's an instruction to you, the opening statement, not a description of what Hashem does. Beracha Vaya Lekacha, you have to know that the Eibishter is your Eibishter. He's controlling your life. Pirush, he's the one that grants you ability to be successful. But like time, you should not say, this is still the Marash speaking, that it's my strength, my ability that caused all the success. Then you have the success. When you remember that, when you remember that the Eibishter runs your life. This idea that in everything he's successful, the meaning is, whatever he's going to do, will be successful and be good. And if we can be majorly successful, even by doing a small thing, he'll be absolutely and exceedingly wealthy. End quote in their Marash. Now comes the beer. However, when the foolishness of man subverts, it moves his path. This is a pasuk. And instead of remembering that God is your Eibishter, that's the one that runs your life, he starts to follow all kinds of human ideas. Here they're add something. In the Deb Marash's Maimer, how does the Marash explain why a person is going off to do these things? The Maimer goes on to say that a person is willing to put himself in major sakana just to be a little more successful. And he gives examples of people who like dive to the bottom of the ocean to get pearls, even though they know they're putting them in. He describes a great length. The guy has a tube from which he breathes so above ground, and it's highly risky and highly successful, and all because he wants to have a few more dollars. And if you would just remember that the Eibishter runs the world, and that it's okay to have a house that's a little bit smaller, it'll be just fine. But instead, because he needs to have the best time of Elam Haza, and he has to have the regular clothing not good enough. He has to have the more expensive clothing, and he has to have the best time robe. Therefore, he puts himself into Meshugin and risk. This is what Marash goes on to talk about in that Maimer. But the reason, what pushes the person to do all this craziness, says that Marash, is Taivas. But the Rebbe gives a different beer for why you're making yourself crazy. And this is a very uniquely American beer. So let's see. Here, because he wants to compare himself to his friends. He wants to keep up with the Joneses. So he makes himself crazy and goes into massive risks, puts himself into stress. Why? Because you have to have a house as big as his neighbor. a different beer for why he's making himself crazy. It's a uniquely American beer. And B'chlal, this is Tashon Chav Gimel, it's 1963. In those years, B'chlal, they would talk about this American culture where everybody has to outdo their neighbor. The California kitchens, the wall-to-wall carpet, all that language was also going to get to chinuch, by the way, in those years. That's my kid's not going to be a doctor, and my neighbors are going to think that my son is a schlepper. Can't have that. So I have to send him to college, and from when he's 6 months old, I have to make sure that he's learning everything so that one day he could be a doctor. So I'm not going to be embarrassed by his profession because my neighbor has a kid who's a doctor, right? That was the language of those years. And the same thing here. He wants to compare himself to his neighbor. He starts chasing all this kinds of expensive stuff. That's irrelevant to his life, to his standing, to what he needs. It's not because his neighbor has it. And he thinks that if I work hard enough, then I'm going to have more than my neighbor, at least as much as my neighbor. His strength. Not only that, not only does he, God forbid, lose the brachas of Hashem to be successful in what he's doing, moreover, he ends up losing, God forbid, whatever success he had until now. He can put himself in danger. He can cause himself harm and even danger. The Maamer, the Maamer brings examples. As I was telling you before, the guy who dives to the bottom of the ocean with this dangerous system of breathing. And all of this starts with the premise, even though he knows the Eibishter provides. But I'm the reason for my success. So the Oiden surface begoloi, he knows it's from the Eibishter. He says thank God all the time, and still koich v'yotzim yadi. And because why? Because he needs to keep up with his neighbor. It's almost like they were saying, it's like Ivelas Adam, the foolishness of man. It's the dumbest reason to be chasing things, because my neighbor has it.
So it's basically, it's not his belief, it's his behavior.
Right. It's not his belief. He believes. What's interesting is also, the Fidik gave both examples. The Fidik gave the example of the person who's successful and he's arrogant. And the Fidik also gave the example of the person who loses money and is all down and out. And the Fidik said, if it's all about the Eibishter, if it all comes from the Eibishter, there should be equality. Whether I'm doing successful or not, that's what the Eibishter wants, leave it alone. But Rebbe doesn't discuss someone who's not successful, for whatever reason. Rebbe only discusses the one who's successful, and why is he making himself a sugar to be successful? Because he needs to keep up with his times. Huh?
Successful.
I don't think it's.
Huh?
I don't think it's. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about the emphasis. His problem is that he wants to keep up with the Jones, and he says, "I'll be able to do it myself."
Exactly.
I'll work a little harder.
Yeah.
I'll make it.
Yeah, take another risk here. Take another. That's right. Even though Be'etzem, if you ask him where does brachas come from, I'll tell you, yeah, I say thank God and everything.
But like they say, the harder I work, the more successful I become.
Exactly.
That's yeah. I hear you.
Okay, so this has been a yeah to the person who is in business. But in Parai, the way they ever touched the Parai, there was side the bracha begashmis and side the bracha beruchnis. Right? There was Yaakov's presence didn't just provide them a bracha but success begashmis in Mitzrayim. But Litzvos Lazeh, they became part of the Kavanah. They were able to provide for Yidden to be successful in beruchnis. And therefore they were part of that ruchnistic success. So the example in Yidden also, which is where it starts again, that with the Rebbe's Chiddush, that starts in Avodas Adam, that example also has to exist by Yid in his ruchnistic avodah, where he can see Eretz Ipagala in his avodah and still deny, like Padre. So therefore, the Maamer to Kamoikin and B'Yeshiv Oil, the same thing is true of the person who learns, who's involved in spiritual pursuits. The Gamshalim Torah v'Yeshu Torah Savaya, he learns Torah and knows that it's Hashem's Torah because he learns Chassidus. He's a Chassidish Yid. Before he learns, he makes the berachas Torah, not just verbalizes, but he remembers Dais in Torah. Hashem gives the Torah. Nonetheless, it's possible, God forbid, he can, God forbid, use his strength in Torah to stay halacha that's opposite to Torah. And this is parallel to the guy in business. even though the business guy knows and believes that Hashem provides success, it remains a matter of simple faith. But it's not the foundation of his work. He doesn't build his business life on the faith that Hashem provides, although the faith is there. The foundation of his business, the boy is not the way it's supposed to be. The way it should be according to Torah. And therefore, the result is, as mentioned above, he's chasing silly things because he thinks he's going to be more successful. So the same thing is true of the person who's sitting and learning. He learns Torah, he knows it's Hashem's Torah. So the earnings of his begoloi is kamat in tachlis. Torah is being provided to him in a way that he can understand it as a human being, which itself is a lamatat in tachlis. And he knows that. But his learning itself is not founded on that. His learning is not founded on that. But who, and this is, when he learns Torah, meaning, not before he learns. Before he learns and makes the bracha of Hashem, he says, oh, this is Hashem's Torah, and that's what I'm learning. But while he's learning, he gets carried away with his own intellectual capacity. And therefore, while he's learning, he's forgetting the one who gave the Torah. Because Torah becomes an intellectual pursuit. Therefore, he can, God forbid, say, davar, something, and to point out some idea with his intelligence, that which is opposite Torah. And this is, they don't directly quote here the Fidik Rebbe, but they're using a lot of words in the Fidik Rebbe because the Rebbe changes changes little nuances, and I'll point out one of them that I noticed. But there's other things also. If we spent more time comparing this paragraph here as it is in the Rebbe's Maimer to the way it is in the Fidik Rebbe's Maimer, we'll see even more changes. But I'll point out one that I noticed. That is, to start with, he believes in complete and simple faith. There's a God that gives the Torah. And Torah is God's Torah. Okay, he knows that. Bottom of page Chafalov, third to last line. But then, as he starts to learn, his own intelligence starts to take over. And afterwards, he gets even worse. All he's left with is intellectual pursuit. This line is not in the Fidik Rebbe's Maimer. In the Fidik Rebbe's Maimer, he just said that the seichel is mixed in there, and because the seichel is mixed in there, the seichel can cause him to make a mistake in the learning of Torah, because he forgets that it's Hashem, because he's not founding his learning on the fact that it's Hashem's Torah. But here the Rebbe said that all that's left is a seichel. I don't think that line's in the Fidik Rebbe's Maimer. To the point, because all he's left with is his own intelligence, instead of founding his learning on the fact that this is God's Torah, Mishtamik Torah Gufa, he uses Torah itself, to send it in, to instruct in such a manner, it's the opposite of the desire of the one who gave the Torah. The idea is, as the Rebbe Rashab explains at great length in Kuntis Chaim. The truth is that this sugya also comes up in Samach Vav, and also in great length in Samach Vav. I'm not sure why Dafka the Rebbe was taken from Eitz Chaim rather than from there. And I'm not bucking off to this. I don't know enough, but I point up to know this. Anyway, so the Rebbe writes in Eitz Chaim. The Teresh Vapeh Nimshel Teina. A Teresh Vapeh is compared to a fig. The Teina Eitz Adas. The fig is Eitz Adas. The Das of Rabbi Shimon Yochai Med Shaba, Rav Nachman B'Gemara. There's a few different opinions exactly what the Eitz Adas was. None of which are apple. By the way, none of which are apple. Sorry? Esrog, Teina, wheat, grape, maybe some other, but none of them are apple. There's one in Ayin Beis, the Rebbe Rashab talks about the sweetness of the apple that was eaten in the Gan Eden, and the Rebbe puts in a footnote there. I'm not sure that Rebbe Rashab got this idea because there's no opinion that says that that the Eitz Adas is an apple. So maybe that's the closest thing to the mucker of the Eitz Adas being an apple. Anyway, so this is now still the Rebbe Rashab speaking. Seemingly, something is very curious. How can you say Teresh Vapeh is a fig, which is Eitz Adas? Right, because Eitz Adas is both good and bad. How could Torah be Eitz Adas? And in other words, it's not just the conclusion from the Gemara Because the Gemara says that Teresh Bapa is a Ta'ina, and a Ta'ina is a Tzadas. That's in Nigla. But in Kabbalah, it says straight out, the Teresh Bapa Hilon of the Tevra. That Teresh Bapa is the tree of good and bad. Amnam, however, ain't a Kavan al Torah Atzma. But the intention here is not that Torah itself is, Chas v'Shalom, God forbid, Hilon of the Tevra, good and bad. As the Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya, Ger HaKodesh, the famous Ger HaKodesh. But because Teresh Bapa is speaking of and therefore invested in physical matters, what does Teresh Bapa talk about? It talks about what happens when Mr. So-and-so steals from so-and-so. So the Torah itself is not in Eitzadas, but because Torah invests itself to discuss physical matters, some of which are negative, therefore, therefore it's invested in a world that's good and bad to select that which is good, to say here's right and here's wrong. Right? So the Torah itself is not Torah Chas v'Shalom, this is what the Alter explains in the Ger HaKodesh. But it's mislabish in things that are good and bad. Now here comes the Rabbi Shab's edition in Eitz Chaim. Right? Eitz Chaim was written for the Temple to teach them what it means to learn like a mensch, to learn like a yid, and to learn like a chassid. And the whole message there is that even as you're learning Torah, remember this is Hashem's Torah, which is why this whole Eitz Chaim is brought up in context of this Maamar. And because of this, the Rabbi Shab, because Torah deals with matters that are physical, therefore, because what he's dealing with is Mr. So-and-so who stole from Mr. So-and-so or some other physical matters, therefore it's possible for him to forget about the giver of the Torah. And I forget that this is Hashem's wisdom. Okay, we'll stop over here. We'll continue. See the Rebbe's edition connected back to the Maamer, and then we'll conclude. I guess we'll do this on Monday. We'll conclude the Maamer, and we'll go to the Maamer of ותשמ and Gimel, which is a completely different style Maamer. And really, maybe we should do this over Shabbos if you want an exercise. Just learn the Fidik of his Ois Gimel, and then learn it with all of the biyum from the Rebbe. It's almost like a shir, like Rebbe was giving a shir. He quotes and then explains, quotes and then explains how each one's connected to the. It's like, and that's B'chlal, the first round of BASI legani is like that. The Rebbe goes line by line. The second round is already different. The second round, Rebbe takes one Nakuda and builds a Maamer on it. But in the first round, as you can see, Rebbe goes line by line by line, and every quote, if you Rebbe quotes, explain why it's Negea and how it's Negea. So over Shabbos, you want to do a little exercise, learn Ois Gimel, but learn it now with all the biyudim from the Rebbe. A wonderful day, Shabbos.
Thank you very much.